Listen, I want to show you something that will change how you see your marriage forever. Imagine right now there's a mirror in front of you, not a regular mirror, but one that shows you how your wife sees you at this exact moment. And I guarantee you're not ready for what you'd see. You think you see yourself when you shave in the morning, when you get dressed, when you walk past windows, but that image has nothing to do with how she sees you. And today, I'm going to give you that mirror, and once you look into it, really look into it, you'll understand why she barely lifts her head when you come home, why she scrolls through her phone while you're talking, why she treats you like your furniture that happens to pay bills. You know what nobody tells you about respect in marriage? It doesn't disappear in some dramatic moment. There's no big fight where she suddenly announces, "I don't respect you anymore." No, it dies slowly. Like a plant you forgot to water. First the edges of the leaves turn brown, then they curl up, then they fall off one by one, and by the time you notice the plant is dying, it's already been dead for weeks. That is exactly what happens with respect. It starts dying long before you notice, and by the time you see the symptoms, the disease has already spread through everything. I was sitting with my brother-in-law Micaiah last month. We're having beers in his garage, and he starts telling me about his marriage. 15 years together, 2 kids, nice house, both have good jobs, everything looks perfect from the outside. But he tells me, something's different, she doesn't look at me the same way anymore. So I ask him when did it start, and he can't tell me. He says maybe 6 months ago, maybe a year, maybe longer. He doesn't know because it happened so gradually he didn't notice until it was already gone. That is the trap every married man falls into. You think everything is fine because there's no crisis, no drama, no ultimatum. But meanwhile, the respect is bleeding out drop by drop, and you don't see it because you're too busy living your life, going to work, paying bills, thinking that being a good provider is enough. Well, let me tell you something that will hurt to hear. Being a good provider today means absolutely nothing if you're competing with the fantasy world that lives in her phone. Your wife, and I don't care how good you think your marriage is, your wife spends hours every day consuming content that tells her she's settled for less. Every Instagram post, every TikTok video, every Facebook story is showing her men who don't exist in reality but exist in her mind as possibilities she missed. She sees a fitness influencer with perfect abs teaching his son to ride a bike, and suddenly, you with your dad bod playing with your kids looks pathetic. She sees some entrepreneur talking about his morning routine that starts at 4 a.m, with meditation and cold plunges, and suddenly you hitting the snooze button 3 times makes you look weak. But here's what's really destroying marriages, and nobody wants to talk about this because it's too uncomfortable. Women today have been programmed to believe they deserve a man who is simultaneously everything. He needs to be aggressive in business but gentle with children, dominant in bed but sensitive to her emotions, ambitious enough to be wealthy but available enough to spend quality time, physically perfect but also not vain about it, confident but also vulnerable, mysterious but also an open book, a leader but also collaborative, protective but not controlling. You see, yes, these contradictions that cannot exist in one person, but she's been told over and over that this man exists, and if she doesn't have him, it's because she settled. I knew this couple, Andrei and Natasha, married 12 years. Andrei is a good man, works in finance, makes good money, not great money, but good money, takes care of his family, never cheated, never raised his hand, always home for dinner. One day, Natasha discovers Instagram, starts following all these lifestyle accounts, and within 6 months she's looking at Andrei like he's a disappointment walking around in a human suit. Why? Because she's comparing him to an impossible combination of every perfect moment she sees online. She shows him a video of some guy who surprised his wife with a flash mob at the airport when she came back from a business trip. Andrei picked her up from the airport last month, brought her flowers, took her luggage, drove her home while she relaxed. But that's not enough anymore, because it wasn't a performance, it wasn't content, it wasn't something she could post about and get 200 likes from her friends who are all living in the same fantasy world. The most dangerous part, and this is what's really sick about all this, is that she doesn't even realise she's doing it. The comparison happens subconsciously, automatically, like breathing. She sees these images and videos all day long, and her brain starts creating a composite image of what a real man should be. And this composite is literally impossible, because it's made up of the best moments of thousands of different men, edited, filtered, staged, and presented as normal daily life. I remember when I first understood this completely. I was at a wedding, sitting at a table with 4 couples, and the women are all showing each other Instagram posts of other people's weddings. Look at this proposal on the beach in Maldives. Look at this reception in a castle in France. Look at this dress that cost 50,000 euros. And I'm watching the men at the table, these good men who worked hard to give their wives nice weddings, and they're all shrinking in their chairs because they're being compared to fantasy and losing. One of the guys, Robert, he saved for 2 years to give his wife a beautiful wedding, took out a loan even, and now she's looking at these posts with hunger in her eyes like what he did wasn't enough. Later, I pulled him aside and I said, "Brother, you see what's happening here?" And he says, "What can I do?" This is what they all do now, compare everything to what they see online. And that's when I realised most men don't even understand they're in a competition they can never win. You want to know the exact signs your wife has lost respect for you? Let me paint you the picture so clear you'll recognise it immediately. First sign, she stops asking for your opinion on things that matter. Not little things like what's for dinner, but big things like decisions about the kids, about money, about the future. She just decides and informs you later like you're a roommate who needs to be kept in the loop but not consulted. My neighbour, Dimitri, his wife, enrolled their son in private school, 20,000 a year. Didn't even discuss it with him first. Just came home and said, "I enrolled Maxim in St. Petersburg Academy. The first payment is due next week." He tells me this story like it's normal, like of course she makes these decisions alone. I said, "Dimitri, she doesn't see you as the head of the household. She doesn't even see you as an equal partner. You're just the wallet that needs to produce money when required." Second sign, she corrects you constantly in public. You're telling a story to friends and she interrupts to fix irrelevant details. It wasn't Thursday, it was Friday. It wasn't raining, it was just cloudy. You weren't wearing the blue shirt, you were wearing the grey one. These corrections have nothing to do with accuracy and everything to do with showing everyone, including you, that she doesn't trust you to get even simple things right. I was at a barbecue last summer and I watched this happen to a guy named Stefan. Every single thing he said, his wife corrected. He's trying to tell a funny story about something that happened at work, and she must have interrupted him 7 times with these pointless corrections. By the end, nobody was laughing at his story because the energy was completely killed by her constant need to demonstrate that he's incompetent. Third sign, and this one is brutal. She stops protecting your reputation in front of others. When someone criticizes you or makes fun of you, she joins in instead of defending you. Or worse, she initiates the criticism herself. Oh, you think that's bad? You should see him trying to fix things around the house. At least your husband remembers anniversaries, mine can barely remember my birthday. She throws you under the bus for laughs, for sympathy, for connection with other women who also disrespect their husbands. Fourth sign, the physical distance. I'm not just talking about sex, although that dies too. I'm talking about basic touch, sitting close on the couch, holding hands, the little physical connections that say we're together. She sits on the opposite end of the couch now. She walks beside you, but not with you. She turns her body away from you in bed. Her body is telling you what her mind already knows. She doesn't want to be close to you because she doesn't respect what you've become. But here's what really shows complete loss of respect, and most men miss this completely. She stops fighting with you about important things. You think peace is good, no arguments means happy marriage. But when a woman stops fighting, it means she's given up on you. She doesn't argue about you going out with friends because she doesn't care where you are. She doesn't get jealous anymore because she doesn't see you as a prize someone might take. She doesn't complain about things you do wrong because she's already written you off as hopeless. I learned this the hard way with my ex-wife. For years we would argue about things, passionate arguments about money, about time, about priorities. Then one day the argument stopped. I thought finally we've reached maturity, we've found peace. No, she had just stopped caring enough to fight. 6 months later she left, and when I asked why she said, "I gave up on you a long time ago, I just needed time to figure out my exit plan." That is what men don't understand. Women's respect doesn't leave all at once like they're walking out the door. It leaves in pieces over months and years while their body is still there. By the time the body leaves, the respect has been gone so long, she can barely remember what it felt like to look up to you. You know what's creating this disaster? Is that every man today is trying to be what he thinks women want instead of being what women actually need. You read the articles, you watch the videos, you listen to the experts telling you to be more sensitive, more emotional, more available, more understanding, more supportive, more everything except more of a man. And you follow this advice thinking you're becoming a better husband, but what you're actually becoming is less attractive, less respectable, less of everything she was drawn to when she met you. I was talking to this woman, Elena, divorced twice, very honest about relationships. I asked her why both marriages failed. She says they both changed after marriage. When I met them, they had opinions, they had goals, they had backbone. After marriage, they just wanted to make me happy. Every decision was, whatever you want, honey. Every conflict was, you're right, I'm sorry. I didn't marry them to be my servants. I married them to be my partners, my equals, maybe even my leaders sometimes. But they turned into these shapeless beings who only existed to please me, and you can't respect something that has no shape of its own. That is the poison that's been fed to modern men, that their purpose is to make women happy, that a good husband is one who never disagrees, never stands firm, never says no, never has boundaries that don't move. But let me tell you what women actually tell each other when men aren't listening. They mock these men. They call them weak. They call them pathetic. They share stories about how easily manipulated their husbands are, and they do it with disgust in their voices. I overheard a conversation at a cafe, 3 women having lunch, all married, all successful, all beautiful. One says, I told Marcus I wanted a new car and he actually took a second job to afford it. Can you believe it? He's working weekends now. And they all laughed, not happy laughter, mocking laughter. Another one says, that's nothing. I haven't cooked dinner in 6 months. I just say I'm tired and David orders takeout every night. More laughter. The third one says, you're both amateurs. I got James to agree to let my mother move in permanently. And they howled with laughter at these men who thought sacrifice meant love. You see what's happening here? These men think they're being good husbands by sacrificing everything, but their wives see them as jokes, as weak fools who can be manipulated into anything. There's no respect there, only contempt disguised as appreciation. Oh, he's so sweet means he's so weak. He does anything for me means he has no backbone. He's so understanding means he's a pushover. But here's where it gets really interesting, and this is something I discovered through painful experience. Women don't actually want what they think they want. They say they want a man who's emotional, available, sensitive, agreeable. But when they get that man, they're repulsed by him. Why? Because what they actually want is a man who chooses to be gentle. Not one who's gentle because he's weak. They want a man who's capable of saying no but chooses to say yes, not one who says yes because he's afraid of conflict. My cousin Victor learned this lesson in the most brutal way possible. His wife was always complaining that he worked too much, wasn't emotional enough, wasn't present enough. So he changed everything. Cut back his work hours, started going to therapy to be more emotional, spent every evening talking about feelings with her. You know what happened? She left him for his business partner, a guy who works 80 hours a week and barely knows what emotions are. When Victor asked her why, she said, I lost attraction to you when you became everything I asked for. That is the paradox that's destroying modern marriages. Women have been programmed to ask for things that kill their attraction when they get them. They ask for emotional availability but lose respect for emotional men. They ask for equal partnership but lose attraction to men who won't lead. They ask for sensitivity but fantasize about men who are bulletproof. And social media has made this paradox 1,000 times worse, because now women see carefully edited versions of men who appear to have resolved this paradox, the CEO who writes poetry, the bodybuilder who cries at movies, the bad boy who's amazing with kids. These men don't exist in reality. They're composites, fantasies, marketing creations designed to get views and likes. But your wife doesn't know that. She thinks these men are real and you're the inferior version. I want to tell you about something that happened to me personally that opened my eyes completely. I was dating this woman, Katerina, absolutely beautiful, successful lawyer, the kind of woman who had everything together. We'd been together about 8 months when I noticed she was always on her phone, always scrolling, always consuming content. One day, I asked her to show me what she was looking at. She showed me her Instagram feed. Fitness models, travel bloggers, relationship coaches, lifestyle gurus, and every single post was about how women deserve more, should expect more, shouldn't settle for less. I watched her face as she scrolled, and I saw something terrifying. Hunger. Not sexual hunger, not romantic hunger, but this deep dissatisfaction with reality, with me, with everything that wasn't the perfection on her screen. I realised in that moment that I wasn't competing with other real men. I was competing with an algorithm-generated fantasy that was specifically designed to make her feel like whatever she had wasn't enough. That night, I made a decision that changed everything. I told her, "Listen, I'm a real man living in the real world. I'm not going to compete with your phone. I'm not going to try to become some impossible combination of every perfect moment you see online. I'm going to be exactly who I am, and you can either appreciate that or find someone else." She was shocked, angry even, but you know what? She put the phone down. For the first time in months, she actually saw me instead of comparing me to pixels on a screen. But most men don't have this realization until it's too late. They spend years trying to match an impossible standard, apologizing for not being perfect, working themselves to death, trying to afford the lifestyle she sees online, going to the gym, trying to achieve bodies that require steroids and professional photography to look that good, trying to be romantic in ways that require Hollywood budgets and scriptwriters. Let me tell you exactly what happens in a woman's brain when she loses respect for you. Because once you understand the mechanism, you can see it happening in real time. First, she starts rewriting history. That story about how you met that she used to tell with stars in her eyes. Now she tells it differently. I wasn't really that interested at first. I had other options. I almost didn't go on that second date. She's retroactively removing the respect she once had, convincing herself it was never there. Second, she starts future projecting without you. When she talks about plans, dreams, goals, you're mysteriously absent. When I retire, I want to travel. Not when we retire, just when I retire. I'm thinking about buying investment property. Not we should buy, just I'm thinking. She's already living a mental life where you don't exist, and she's comfortable with that image. Third, she starts what I call emotional test driving. She develops deep connections with other men. Could be co-workers, could be guys from the gym, could be online connections. She tells herself these are just friendships, but what she's really doing is seeing if she can feel with someone else what she no longer feels with you. She's shopping for your replacement while you're still there. I watched this happen to my friend Robert in real time. His wife started talking about this guy from her yoga class. First it was just mentions. "Oh, Thomas said something funny today." Then it became comparisons. "Thomas ran a marathon last weekend. Isn't that impressive?" Then it became revelations. Thomas and I have such deep conversations about life. Robert thought it was harmless. 6 months later, she left him for Thomas. But here's what Robert didn't understand and what most men don't understand. She didn't leave him for Thomas. She left him because she'd lost all respect for him, and Thomas was just the exit door. If it wasn't Thomas, it would have been someone else, because once respect is gone, the relationship is already over. It's just a matter of time before the body follows where the mind has already gone. You want to know why modern women lose respect so easily? Because they've been trained from birth to see themselves as prizes to be won, queens to be served, goddesses to be worshipped. Every movie, every song, every social media post tells them they deserve the best. They're worth it. They should never settle. They're perfect as they are. Meanwhile, men are told they need to improve, work harder, be better, do more, sacrifice everything to be worthy of a woman's attention. This creates a dynamic where women see themselves as the judge and men as contestants trying to win approval. But here's what nobody tells you. You can't respect what's beneath you. If she sees you as someone auditioning for her approval, she cannot respect you. If she sees you as someone who needs to earn her love, she cannot respect you. If she sees you as someone who should be grateful for her presence, she cannot respect you. The only way to maintain respect is to never accept the frame that you're beneath her, that you need to earn anything, that you should be grateful for basic relationship participation. You're not auditioning, you're not competing, you're not performing for approval. You're a man with value, with options, with standards, and she can either recognize that or lose you. I learned this lesson from watching my grandfather with my grandmother. My grandmother was a beautiful woman. Even in her 70s, she had this elegance about her. But she also had this sharp tongue, always testing, always pushing, always seeing if my grandfather would bend. And he never did. Not once in 50 years of marriage did I see him apologize for something that wasn't his fault, change his position because of her emotions, or sacrifice his dignity for her approval. One time she was upset because he went fishing instead of going to her sister's birthday party. She gave him the silent treatment for 3 days. You know what he did? He went fishing again. When she finally spoke to him, she said, "Don't you care that I'm upset?" He said, "I care that you're upset, but I don't care enough to stop living my life." She never tried the silent treatment again because she learned it had no power over him. That is real strength, not the fake strength of muscles or money or status, but the strength of a man who knows his worth and won't let anyone, including his wife, treat him as less than that worth. That's what creates lasting respect, immovable self-worth. But today's men have been programmed to see self-worth as selfishness, boundaries as cruelty, standards as misogyny. So they abandon all of it in the name of being a good man, and then wonder why their wives look at them with disgust. Let me tell you something that will sound harsh, but it's true. Your wife doesn't want a good man, she wants a great man. And greatness doesn't come from service, it comes from strength. The solution isn't to become an asshole, it's not to be cruel or dismissive or controlling. The solution is to remember who you were before you started performing for approval. Remember when you had opinions that didn't change based on her mood. Remember when you had goals that weren't about making her happy. Remember when you had friends, interests, passions that had nothing to do with her. That man, the one you were before you disappeared into the role of husband, that's the man she respected. You see, yes, when you first met her, you weren't trying to be perfect. You were just being yourself, and that self was attractive because it was real, it was solid, it had edges and corners and places where it wouldn't bend. But after marriage, after commitment, you started sanding down those edges, smoothing out those corners, becoming this soft, shapeless thing that molds itself to whatever she wants. And she hates it, even if she doesn't consciously know she hates it. The way back to respect isn't through doing more, trying harder, becoming better at meeting her expectations. The way back is through doing less, trying less, and having your own expectations that she needs to meet. Stop asking, what can I do to make her happy? And start asking, what do I need to be happy? Stop thinking, how can I earn her respect? And start thinking, is she earning mine? Because here's the brutal truth that nobody wants to hear. If she's lost respect for you, it might be because you've become someone not worthy of respect. Not because you're not rich enough or fit enough or romantic enough, but because you've abandoned everything that makes a man respectable in pursuit of approval that never comes. The signs are all there if you're willing to see them. The way she looks at you or doesn't look at you, the way she speaks to you or doesn't speak to you, the way she touches you or doesn't touch you. These aren't problems to be solved by trying harder. These are symptoms of a disease that can only be cured by you becoming someone worth respecting again, or having enough respect for yourself to leave and find someone who can see your worth. That is the choice every man faces when respect is gone, transformation or departure. But what most men choose is neither. They choose to stay the same, in the same situation, hoping things will magically improve, trying to negotiate attraction, trying to logic their way back to respect. It doesn't work. It has never worked. It will never work. Respect, like attraction, isn't negotiable. It's either there or it isn't. And once it's gone, only massive change can bring it back. Not surface change like losing weight or making more money, but deep change in how you see yourself, how you carry yourself, how you allow others to treat you. Every husband watching this needs to understand your wife is constantly evaluating whether you're worth respecting. Every interaction, every decision, every moment of weakness or strength is data in her ongoing calculation. And if you're constantly failing these evaluations by being too agreeable, too available, too eager to please, then the math isn't in your favour. The solution starts with a simple decision. Stop performing for an audience that's never satisfied. Stop competing with fantasies. Stop apologising for being human. Start being the man you would respect if you met him. That's the only standard that matters, the only competition worth winning, the only approval worth earning, your own.